I must thank the organizers and Mr. Bhatia for giving me this opportunity to be a moderator. We have a fantastic panel here, and we'll be discussing the medico-legal perceptions by doctors, patients, and courts. Of late, the expectations are quite changing with rising prosperity, improving technology, the results what are expected out of the treatment for the patients, the expectations which are going high and high, and there are some times when the doctor who is the provider of the care is not thought to have done the person, the job, whatever is expected to be done. And the differences in the perception of either the supply of the service which has been supposed to be done or what has been received and the result being totally different is something which leads to a lot of acrimony and quite often litigation. So we have four leaders here of their various industries. So we have somebody who's been a tremendous supporter of the services which are required absolutely in medicine. That's Dr. Velumani. We have Mukesh, who actually is leading the Hoya Surgical Optics, which is one of the leading manufacturers of the lenses which are used after the cataract surgery. We have Sasa Bozek, who is essentially a management consultant, and she's also founder of Executive Wellbeing Institute, where you actually re-engineer yourself to through the digital model and bring yourself into a leadership position. And we have Dr. Talavane Krishna, who is founder and chairman. He's basically an ex-anesthetist from the US, and he chairs the Indus Valley Ayurvedic Center. Dr. Velumani, did you personally have any opportunity of any discrepancy where you had expected something of a result personally in receiving medical care from doctors and it turned out to be something different which made you unhappy?
Right. Actually, in India, in fact, in the entire world, India is cheapest in healthcare because in the Western world, more a paranoid approach towards healthcare, and there is a huge burden on the bill of the patient because there is an element of risk of attending to his medico-legal issues. In India, it's plain. I don't think there are too many cases in India. I run a paramedical support, not truly a medical solution, where diagnostic tests are reported. And the disclaimer always says, please correlate with the patient's clinical history before taking decisions. And moreover, I do tests which are on a, my per patient revenue is roughly around 300 rupees. So we don't have a medico-legal, what you call as a claim, because you have to go to a lawyer means you have to pay 10,000 rupees to get a legal notice also. Correct. So to that extent, I'm safe. Let's put it that way.
Right.
The next one is, there are issues which have been heard in the last 10 years, where if you have received a complaint, it is your competitor's well-wisher has writing a complaint.
Right.
So truly there is no customer who himself felt that there is discrepancy or failure and he took pains to draw a complaint. If you tell me we must have done for millions of patients, we must have received around 5,000 complaint letters over last 10 years period, which must have given rise to some 100 lawyer notice, and must have attended by our lawyer in some 10-15 cases, and in 1 or 2 cases we have paid around 40,000, 50,000 compensation, which means in the total turnover it works out to be 0.0001%. I am only telling, if people are serious, if there is a true medico-legal burden on Indian medical industry, I would have paid much, much more. No one can tell that I don't make mistakes, so I don't get a complaint, because mistakes are not done in my kind of laboratories by the man. It is done by the machine, because automations are ruling.
So in any case, the laboratory results are supposed to be actually be interpreted by the treating doctor in any case. So I think the laboratory services by and large are immune from this thing to some extent.
Not totally immune, because the doctor also becomes a party along with the patient sometimes,
Yes.
because he tells to Lado,
Yes.
you fight.
Okay.
So it is not that the industry is completely free of it,
Right.
but if you ask me, it is a very, very minuscule, there is not truly something to be worried about.
Right. Now, what constitutes actually a medico-legal problem is of late, the doctors are actually being judged as under the Consumer Protection Act, which means that there's a service which the doctor is supposed to offer as a provider. That's number one. Patient comes in and there has to be a consideration either to be paid or promised to be paid, and now it is said that even if he doesn't really pay, the doctor is still going to be liable if the act of offering a service is completed. So this is very, very important. So once this particular thing done, it amounts to almost like a contract. So when this contract is executed, there is a result of that particular service in the form of the result of either a surgery or a response to the medicine or any other type of a care that the doctor has given. And if the result is not as expected as per the standard kind of protocols, then the patient is entitled to complain to a requisite authority. Now, what is this requisite authority? If the patient's claim is less than 20 lakhs, then he can go to a district consumer panel. If it's between 20 lakhs to 1 crore, then he can go to the state panel. If it's more than 1 crore, then he can go to the national panel. So this is how it is going to work. What exactly attracts this? Now, there are errors of commission and errors of omission, which mean that everything that is supposed to be done for offering proper care, if it is not done, or if you have done something which is not supposed to be done, this is the number two. Number three is the patient has suffered, and the suffering is basically because of the mistake of number one and number two. So there are 4 criterias which have to be completed before a problem is really, it arises. Now, Sasha, what is your take on this whole thing? You are originally from Slovenia, you are based in the Middle East, you are exposed to India, so I think you are one of the good persons to comment on this.
Thank you so much for the question. If I might take, because my background goes also to IT, I would like to connect that with the new era of technology and how technology could help us to solve some of those topics or issues that you've mentioned. I came to India a few years ago promoting an application for a healthier lifestyle. We were lucky enough to run some workshops within the Tata Group, Apollo Hospitals, Dasvit Hotels, in order to promote a healthier lifestyle among the top performers within those companies. Tracking your lifestyle, meaning having a daily journal on how you lead your life, or let's say, one part of that application was also an application for diabetes patients. So meaning, if you are tracking everything you do, you can track your sugar level, you can track your, you can have your food diary. What does the printout of your monthly activity means to your doctor, or if something goes wrong, coming with a proof like that, right? And having more knowledge or being more aware of what your doctor should do with those data, and how can he help you if it's not just about you saying what you did, but you have a track record of everything that was going on within 1 month. In Europe, insurance is paying only 15. It pays you only 15 minutes per month to have a consultation with doctor. Coming there, you being like stressed out, you don't know exactly what to explain to your doctor, but coming with a track record like that, the efficiency of that conversation can increase. And also it can help, if something goes wrong, it can help by having the both sides tracked and exposed. Yeah, this is what I've noticed, and I believe that the new technologies would help the burden of the knowledge-based data, because no matter, and with all the respect, with the great minds that we have here, we will never be able to compete on the knowledge base with the best computers that are right now, and with all the algorithms that we can create, all the diagnosis and all of that could also in the future be handled by the computer. So what we have to increase more was the two topics that the previous speakers were talking about, the human part of us. So how do we become a human to human? How can we help each other through acknowledge what we feel that other person on the other side as a patient is feeling, and we run through that, through more human approach.
Okay. Mind you, merely because the anticipated result has not come, does not mean the doctor becomes liable for litigation immediately, because the result could be different for many reasons. One, if there is something which the patient has not really disclosed. Now, there could be some kind of unusual kind of patient's habits or past histories or anything like that, which has actually resulted into an unexpected result, a clinical result, then that is one part of it. Number two is there are certain standard protocols and standard expected results. You do a particular surgery, okay, you're going to have so much of pain, the scar is going to be this way generally, and the result is going to be this way. It didn't turn out to be that way, but the patient's technique has been standard, in which case the doctor really cannot. Suing can be done by anybody, but the doctor won't really be penalized from that point of view. Now, the surgeons generally are very wary of two kinds of co-specialists. One is an anesthetist, because he knows exactly what the surgeon is doing, and second is the pathologist, who will know exactly what the surgeon has completed. So Dr. Krishna is a senior anesthetist who had chosen to enter into a holistic healing by putting up a holistic healing center at Mysore, which is one of the finest things that I have heard about. I really wish I will go there someday. Now, can you elucidate on your experience on medico-legal cases? Because we don't yet, fortunately, have ambulance chasers in India, where actually somebody meets with an accident, and you have, when the patient is just being wheeled in the ambulance, you have another car which is coming, and there the lawyer is sitting, getting ready to file the suit. Or if the moment they understand that there is something gone wrong, then they are there to actually sue. And such interesting things. For example, there is somebody whom I personally know, a daughter and a mother. The daughter was driving, she met with an accident, and the mother had some small fracture. So the lawyer came to the mother and said, sue your daughter and we will get you this much, and you don't have to really pay anything for the litigation. In India, we wouldn't generally do this particular thing. Now, I don't know what they did in the US, but this is the kind of litigation, medico-legal problems which can happen.
Thank you, Doctor. Well, I graduated from the medical school in 1972. Then I went abroad. I worked in UK, Canada, and USA. And then I came back here. But I never really practiced medicine in this country, except I found the Ayurveda Center. Is this working? Yeah. There is quite a significant difference between the West and the Indian way of looking at the medico-legal aspects. Like Dr. Deshpande just mentioned, it is here in India it comes under the Consumer Protection Act. In the Western countries it is totally different. See, there is always the medical board, which is governed by the state or the country, and the medical departments or the hospitals are the self-policing. Now, the biggest difference I noticed is something happens here in India, suddenly the police will come, they arrest the doctors or the patient's relatives will come and start hitting the doctors or vandalizing the hospital. It's very chaotic. But it is not so in the West. If something happens, I have served in the medical executive committees in many hospitals before in the USA. It is never really vandalism will happen. Anything goes wrong, first it is reported as an incident report, then it goes to the medical executive committee, there it is reviewed. If there is a problem, and of course there will be a self-disciplining thing in the hospital setup or in the medical department setup. And if a patient sues, of course, then it goes to the court. The lawyers will do that. And then the doctor can be reported to the medical board. If there is a gross negligence, he can lose the license, things like that. So there is a systematic approach to a medico-legal situation, a medico-legal case. But in this country, I think a lot of things are evolving. Putting a medico-legal case through a consumer protection is really not protecting the consumer at all, because as Dr. Deshpande just mentioned, if it is within certain amount, it goes to district court or this court and that court. The poor guys, they have no choice to go anywhere. By the end of the day, they get hardly anything. So this is my experience in terms of how the medico-legal process works in India and in the Western countries. In Canada, UK, USA, the system is pretty much the same. I think in India, it should come out of the Consumer Protection Act, and it should follow a proper process of analyzing what went wrong and how and when it happened and how it should be compensated. This is how I feel.